My name is Anna Morales. I'm 32 years old, a registered nurse at St. Clair Hospital in Cincinnati, Ohio, and the single mother of a 6-year-old boy named Ethan. Most mornings start the same. Reheated coffee, the hum of my old refrigerator, and Ethan's chatter about dinosaurs. Life is predictable until it isn't. That morning, my phone buzzed against the kitchen counter, a vibration that somehow felt heavier than usual. A text from my father lit up the screen. Your brother's graduation is next month. We're booking a hall and catering. Everyone's contributing. Send $3,500 by Friday. No greeting. No small talk. Just a number and a command. I stared at it, letting the words blur. Behind me, Ethan was humming while stacking orange and green blocks into a crooked tower. He didn't notice that his grandfather, the man who'd skipped his birthday 2 weeks ago, was now demanding money for someone else's celebration. The smell of burnt toast drifted through the kitchen. I switched off the toaster, muttering a curse under my breath. Ethan giggled. Mommy said a bad word, he sang, delighted. I grinned weakly. You caught me. Don't tell on me, okay? He zipped his lips with his fingers. Secret safe. I set 2 plates on the table and forced myself to eat. But my appetite was gone. The phone was still there, face up, glowing like an accusation. The absence 2 weeks ago for Ethan's 6th birthday, I'd done everything right. Streamers, balloons, a rented bounce house, cupcakes with little edible dinosaurs. I'd texted my parents, my brother Jake, and my sister Melanie weeks in advance. Everyone had said they'd come. They hadn't. Ethan kept running to the front window every time a car passed. Is that Grandpa? He'd ask, pressing his hands against the glass. Not yet, sweetheart, I'd said, over and over, until my own throat felt raw. By the time the sun dipped behind the houses, the bounce house sagged in the yard. The music had stopped, and the only family there was me. Ethan had tried to smile when we blew out the candles, but his eyes had kept flicking toward the door. Now, sitting here rereading my father's message, the memory burned hotter than the coffee in my cup. The pattern. This wasn't new. My parents had a long history of showing up only when it benefited them. When Jake wanted help with tuition, everyone scrambled. When Mom needed her car serviced, I paid the bill. But when I went into labor alone, or when Ethan was in the hospital with pneumonia at 3 years old, silence. Still, I'd kept trying. I'd told myself they'd change. That family mattered. That love could be earned if I was just good enough, helpful enough, forgiving enough. But staring at that text, I finally saw it clearly. This was never about love. It was about leverage. The decision Ethan tugged at my sleeve. Can we go to the park after breakfast? Sure, I said automatically, brushing his curls back. His trust in me was simple, absolute. I couldn't let him grow up learning that love came with invoices. I opened my father's message again. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. The old part of me, the obedient daughter, wanted to reply, Of course, Dad, I'll send it soon. The new part of me, the one that remembered Ethan's empty birthday chairs, refused. I typed slowly. I can't contribute that amount. I'm focusing on Ethan's needs right now. Hope Jake's event goes well. For a heartbeat, I hesitated, feeling 12 years old again, waiting for approval that would never come. Then I hit send and a blue checkmark appeared. Tiny, simple, irreversible, I exhaled. For the first time in my life, I'd said no. The quiet, after the phone buzzed almost immediately. I didn't look. Instead, I slid it face down on the table and joined Ethan on the floor, helping him rebuild his dinosaur tower. He glanced up at me, eyes bright. Make it taller, Mommy. Let's make it so tall it touches the clouds, I said. He laughed. and the sound filled the kitchen like sunlight through a storm. I didn't know what my father's next move would be, but I knew this. I'd finally stopped playing by his rules. We went to the park anyway. Ethan flew across the playground like gravity was optional, his sneakers flashing white as he jumped from the low wall to the mulch. The morning had cleared into a crisp blue, the kind of sky that makes you think nothing truly bad can happen before lunch. I tried to let that be true. I pushed him on the swing, counted down to his jump, watched him land, and cheered like it was the Olympics. My phone stayed zipped in my jacket pocket, heavy as a brick. I knew what was waiting inside it. Missed calls, texts, the familiar script. I wasn't ready yet. When we got home, Ethan sprawled on the living room rug with his cars, narrating battles and alliances only he understood. I reheated leftover pasta and sprinkled Parmesan snow while he made sound effects. It was such an ordinary moment that for a second I could pretend everything was fine. Then I finally checked my phone. 4 missed calls. 2 voicemails from Dad, 1 text from Mom. Call your father. Don't make this worse. The first voicemail was Dad's patient voice, the one that always sounded like he was giving me a chance to be reasonable. Anna, it's your father. I saw your message. I think you misunderstood what I meant. Call me back. The second had an edge. Anna, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this tone is unacceptable. We'll discuss this properly. Call me now. No message from Jake, of course not. He never got his hands dirty. Melanie had sent a single shrugging emoji 2 hours ago, like the whole thing bored her. It probably did. I washed our plates, wiped down the counter, and stood there with the dish towel in my hands, listening to the faucet drip. Then I pressed call. He answered on the first ring. Finally, hi, Dad. A beat. Is hi all you have to say after that text? Which part of the text did you want to discuss? I kept my voice even. In nursing, tone saves lives. At home, sometimes it just keeps you from bleeding out. The part where you announced you won't be contributing. We all have obligations, Anna. Your brother is graduating. We're hosting a proper event. I've spoken to your mother, your aunt. Everyone is doing their part. I'm doing mine, I said. I'm raising my son. He exhaled through his nose. I could hear it, the quiet disapproval that did more damage than shouting ever had. Don't be dramatic. We're talking about $3,500, not a kidney. That's more than my rent. Perhaps if you learned to budget better. I felt my grip tighten on the towel. I budget fine. I'm not sending it. Silence then. You always were stubborn. Your mother spoiled you. I almost laughed. You and I remember my childhood very differently. He ignored that. Listen carefully. We've already put down a deposit on the hall. The caterer needs half up front. Your mother and I are covering more than our share. Jake has worked very hard, and this is important. I'm sure it is. Then act like it matters to you, he snapped, losing the measured tone for a second before reeling it back. Family supports? Family? I tried to show you that 2 weeks ago, I said. You didn't come. A pause. Your mother had a migraine. And Jake? And Melanie? You know how busy this time of year is. You didn't give enough notice? I sent the invitation a month in advance. Then perhaps you should have reminded us. I did. I pressed my fingers to my temple. I texted the morning of. Well, we can't change the past. He dismissed it with a little flick of his voice, the way he always did. We can only do better going forward. Which is why I'm asking you, as your father, to transfer the money today so we can finalize things. Jake deserves a proper celebration. Ethan drove a car across my foot and looked up, eyes wide. Oops, sorry. It's okay, buddy, I whispered. He smiled and went back to his lanes of traffic. Dad, I said, and I heard the steadiness in my voice like a new limb I was learning to use. I'm not sending $3,500. I'm not sending $1,000. I'm not sending anything close to that. I see. The word was flat as ice. And what exactly am I supposed to tell Jake? That his sister doesn't support him? Tell him his sister supports her son. He let the silence stretch until I could hear the faint tick of a clock in whatever room he was in. You've become very selfish since Ethan was born. Since Ethan was born. As if parenthood had corrupted me. As if love had made me small. You missed his birthday, I said softly. Again with that, he said, a little laugh. He is a child. There will be more birthdays. A graduation only happens once. I pressed my fingernails into my palm hard enough to sting. He's 6, Dad. He waited at the window all afternoon for you. If you're going to weaponize a child's feelings to manipulate me, I'm telling you how he felt. Because I still think you care, he breathed out. Of course I care. Which is why I won't let you throw away the family over pocket change and pride. It's not pocket change to me. And it isn't pride. It's a boundary, that word, he said, distaste curling around it. You go to a few therapy sessions and now everything's about boundaries and trauma. The world used to function without everyone making themselves the center of it. I closed my eyes. I'm not the center, Ethan is. That's how it's supposed to be. If you keep shutting us out, you'll regret it, he said almost gently. You'll need us someday, Anna, and we won't be there. You weren't there. He didn't answer. The ticking got louder. Then he shifted tactics. What about when we helped with your car? With your deposit? You lent me $600 when my radiator blew. I paid you back in 2 months. And did Jake pay back his tuition? He said it like a joke, the old family line that got trotted out at dinners. I waited for the chuckle. It didn't come. I'm not Jake, I said. No, he said. You aren't. We let that sit between us, the shape of what it meant too obvious to name. I heard a faint rustle and then Mom's voice in the background, small and musical. Let me talk to her. His hand muffled the receiver. I pictured the quick exchange, the practiced partnership. When she came on, her tone was already soothing, a balm that promised to make everything worse. Sweetheart, she said, you know your father gets wound up. He's under pressure with the planning, and your aunt can be impossible. Don't take his tone personally. I'm not, I said. I'm just saying no, she laughed like that was adorable. You always did have a flair for drama. I'm not dramatic, Mom. I'm tired. I'm tired too, she said, brightening the fatigue into martyrdom. We all are. That's why we need to pull together. I pulled together for years. Honey, she said with infinite patience. You had Ethan. You turned away. We hardly see you anymore. I turned away? My voice sharpened despite myself. Or did you drift when I wouldn't be useful on your schedule? I sent photos. I invited you. You didn't come. Life is complicated, she said, which in our house always meant we're not apologizing. And your brother, well, it's his moment. Let's not make this about old grievances. Send what you can. It will show goodwill. I did show goodwill, I said. I pulled up my banking app again and stared at the number inconceivably small. And I'll show more. Mom brightened audibly. Wonderful. I knew you. I'll send $5, I said. Silence. Not a pause. An absence. 5, she repeated. Yes. Because that's how much of my love and labor you valued when you skipped Ethan's birthday and asked for money 2 weeks later. That's what your presence felt like. $5. I swallowed. It's a line item for me, too. A symbolic contribution to a party I won't attend. Mom's breath fluttered. You're being cruel. I'm being clear. The line shifted again, and Dad was back. His voice was low and bright, the way diamonds are bright. If you want to play games, Anna, I can play them better. I'm not playing. You will transfer the full amount by Friday, he said, as if reading from a form. Or there will be consequences. What consequences? We'll discuss them in person, he said. We'll stop by tomorrow at noon. No, I said. Don't come to my house uninvited. You don't get to tell me where I can go. It's my home. It's your current home, he said, a small emphasis that turned my stomach. Doors open for family. Not mine, I said, and hung up before my courage cracked. My hands shook. I set the phone on the counter like it might explode and went to the sink. Cold water. Breathe in, breathe out. Ethan rolled a car between my feet and laughed when it tapped my ankle. Hey, you, I said and scooped him up. He squealed, flung his arms around my neck and pressed his sticky cheek to mine. His trust steadied me better than any breathing exercise. I texted Maya. Me. Are you home tonight? Maya. Always. You okay? Me. Parents planning to stop by tomorrow. I said no. Maya. Want me there? Me. Maybe. Let me think. Maya, I'll keep my phone loud. Doors open. Maya had been my friend since nursing school, the kind you don't have to explain yourself to. She'd been at Ethan's party with a ridiculous paper crown and a gift card to the bookstore. She'd seen the empty chairs, too. The rest of the day slid by like I was walking against a current. I packed a tote for work, set out Ethan's backpack for school, checked the porch light, and checked the locks. At bedtime, he picked a dinosaur book and crawled under the covers, soft hair sticking up in sleep cowlicks. Mommy? He said when I turned off the lamp. Next year, can Grandpa come to my birthday? I sat down on the edge of the bed. I don't know, baby. But I promise your birthday will be happy either way. He nodded, satisfied. Can we have the blue cupcakes again? Absolutely. He fell asleep with his hand on my wrist, like an anchor. I stayed there a long time, listening to the house settle. Somewhere in the quiet, my fear hardened into something cleaner. Not anger, not yet. Just resolve. I went to the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and typed a list on the back of a receipt because I couldn't find a notebook. Do not open the door. Keep the phone on record if they show up. Have Maya on standby. Documents, lease, utility bills, Ethan's school info, none of their business, but ready. Locks, consider changing? $5. Send it now so there's no way to twist the timing. I opened my banking app and transferred $5 to my father with a memo. Best wishes. A minute later, my phone pinged. Dad, don't be childish. Fix this. Dad, we'll see you tomorrow at noon. I placed the phone face down. The house hummed, the fridge, the heater, the small machine of our life. I stood and checked the deadbolt again. When I turned the thumb latch, the soft metal click sounded like a promise I was finally ready to keep. Tomorrow wouldn't be a conversation. It would be a test. And for once, I wasn't cramming to please anyone. I was ready to fail them to keep us safe. I left the kitchen light on, just in case. Then I went to bed and didn't sleep, but I didn't spiral either. I lay there in the dark, listening to Ethan breathe, counting the seconds between the furnace and the silence, practicing the word I would use if they came. No, I said it out loud once, quietly, and the house held it without argument. The doorbell rang at exactly noon, not 11:59, not 12:01. My father had always treated punctuality like a weapon, a way of saying I'm in control of the schedule, even yours. Ethan was on the couch watching a cartoon, still in his pajamas. I muted the TV and looked through the peephole. There they were. My father, in his usual weekend uniform, collared shirt tucked into jeans, expression carved from stone. My mother stood a step behind him, hands clasped like she was at church. Her purse hung from her arm like a shield. I'd known this was coming, but my heartbeat still kicked up like a trapped bird. I cracked the door just enough for my voice to carry. "Hi, Dad." "Mom?" Dad's eyes narrowed. "You planning to invite us in?" "No," I said. "We can talk here." That single word, no, hung in the air between us like smoke. He gave a dry laugh. "Are you serious?" "I am." Mom spoke softly, her voice a sugar coating. "Sweetheart, this isn't necessary. Let's go inside. Have some coffee. We don't want to make a scene." "There's no scene," I said. "But I told you not to come." Dad stepped closer, filling the doorway. "Don't be ridiculous. We're family." "Family doesn't mean unlimited access," I said. "Not anymore." His jaw tightened. "You sound like your therapist." "If I do, maybe she's helping." He glared at me for a long moment, then reached into his pocket and pulled out something metallic. "A key!" My stomach dropped. He still had the spare key I'd given them when I first moved in. For emergencies, I'd said. For peace of mind. For love. He slid it into the lock and tried to turn it. The deadbolt held firm. I changed them last night. The look that crossed his face, confusion first, then insult, was almost satisfying. He tried again. The key stuck, useless. His expression hardened. "What did you do?" he demanded. "I changed the locks." "You had no right." "It's my house, Dad. I have every right," Mom gasped softly. "Anna, why would you do that?" "Because I don't feel safe with people who ignore my boundaries." "You're being dramatic," Dad said, his voice rising. "We came to talk. Instead, you've locked us out like criminals." "You came to demand," I corrected. "There's a difference." His face flushed. "You think you're so independent now, but you forget who helped you buy this house." "I didn't forget," I said evenly. "I refinanced 2 years ago." "Your name isn't on anything anymore." For a heartbeat, silence. Then the anger behind his eyes sharpened into something almost gleeful. "So that's it. You think you're better than us because you've got a paycheck and a mortgage." "I think I deserve peace," I said. "Peace?" He snapped. "You're throwing away your family over a few dollars." "You threw away your family when you couldn't show up for your grandson's birthday." Mom winced, whispering, "Gary, please." He ignored her. "This is what comes from raising a daughter to think she can do everything on her own. You get pride instead of gratitude." Something inside me, small, tired, 6 years old, almost gave in. But then I heard Ethan in the living room call, "Mommy, who's there?" I turned, my voice steady. "Just some visitors, baby." "Stay inside." Dad's tone softened, dripping with poison. "You're keeping him from us now? Your own parents?" "You kept yourselves away," I said. "You made those choices?" "We'll see what the court says about grandparents' rights," he muttered. I actually laughed. "Are you threatening to sue me because you didn't get your way?" He didn't answer. His silence said enough. Mom reached for my arm through the gap in the door. "Honey, please don't do this. You'll regret it." I stepped back, avoiding her hand. "Maybe I will." "But not today." Dad leaned forward, his voice low and furious. "This conversation isn't over." "It is," I said, and shut the door. He pounded once, hard enough to rattle the frame. "You can't treat us like this." "Please leave," I said through the door. "If you don't, I'll call the police." The pounding stopped. For a moment, I thought they'd gone. Then Mom's voice came, small and pleading. "We love you, Anna. We just want our family back." "You had your chance," I whispered, not sure she could hear. After a long silence, tires crunched on the driveway. The sound faded down the street. Only when the quiet settled did I realize I was shaking. Ethan appeared beside me, holding his stuffed dinosaur. "Mommy, were you fighting?" I crouched down, pulling him close. "Just talking, sweetheart." "Everything's okay." He looked toward the door. "Are they mad?" I hesitated. Maybe, but sometimes people get mad when you say no. That doesn't mean you did something wrong. He nodded, serious as a little professor. Like when I tell Tommy he can't take my toy? Exactly, I said and kissed his forehead. He smiled and ran back to the living room, satisfied with the comparison. I stood up and leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the door. The silence on the other side felt different now. Not peace, but aftermath. My phone buzzed. A new message from Dad. You've made a big mistake. This isn't over. I deleted it without reading the rest. Then I texted Maya. Me. They came. Tried to use the spare key. Maya. Holy hell. You okay? Me. Shaken. But okay. Maya. Want me to come over? Me. No. Just needed to tell someone who won't make me feel crazy. Maya. You're not crazy. You're done being used. Big difference. I set the phone down and stared at the new brass deadbolt gleaming in the afternoon light. My chest ached, but beneath it was something steadier than fear. The faint hum of ownership. For the first time in years, the space behind that door felt like mine. By Monday morning, the silence felt suspicious. After the confrontation at the door, I'd expected an explosion. Calls, threats, maybe even another visit. Instead, my phone had stayed eerily still all weekend. No texts, no voicemails. Not even one of my mother's guilt-laden emojis. It should have felt like relief. But it didn't. It felt like the quiet before a storm. I sat at the kitchen table sipping coffee, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Ethan at the zoo, grinning with a melting popsicle. Ethan asleep on the couch with his toy dinosaur clutched to his chest. Each image reminded me of what I was fighting for. The notification sound shattered the quiet. One ping, then another, then 5 in a row. I glanced down. A new group chat had been created. Family. The members, Dad, Mom, Jake, Melanie, and me. My stomach dropped. Dad, we need to talk. Everyone, tonight at 7. Jake, I can host. Melanie, finally. Mom, Anna, please be there. Let's handle this like adults. I stared at the screen, half disbelieving. Handle this like adults? They'd shown up at my home with a key and a threat. I typed a single word. Me. No. A pause. Then, predictably, Dad. This isn't optional. Me. It absolutely is. Melanie. Seriously, Anna? Stop being dramatic. Jake. You've made Dad really upset. He's been having chest pains. Please, sweetheart. We just want to clear the air. Me. There's nothing to clear. I set a boundary. You didn't like it. That's not my problem. The typing bubble appeared from Dad's name. 3 dots blinking, disappearing, returning. Finally, his reply came through. Dad. Boundaries don't exist in families. Only respect. And you're showing none. I could almost hear his voice saying it, the self-righteous calm. I didn't respond. Within minutes, the chat erupted. Melanie calling me cruel. Jake saying, you owe us an apology. Mom sending long paragraphs about forgiveness and family unity. I muted the conversation and deleted the thread. For the first time, I didn't feel guilt. Just exhaustion, work and worry at the hospital. I threw myself into routine. Vital checks, IV drips, chart updates, the comforting rhythm of competence. But my thoughts kept drifting back to the door, to the sound of the key that hadn't turned. During lunch, Maya dropped by the break room with a soda. You look like you're about to dissect your sandwich, she said, sitting beside me. They made a family group chat, I said. Oh God. That's never good news. Apparently, I'm invited to my own intervention. Classic, she said, cracking the soda open. The old we love you, now obey maneuver. I managed to smile. You've got the pattern memorized. She grew serious. You okay? Really okay? I thought about that. I'm not falling apart. I just feel hollow, like something I believed in died quietly. Maybe it needed to, she said. Sometimes peace starts with silence. I wanted to believe that. The knock when Ethan and I got home that evening, the mailbox overflowed with envelopes, bills, junk mail, and one I didn't recognize. It was handwritten, my name scrawled in my mother's looping cursive. Inside, a folded note on floral stationery. Sweetheart, your father is deeply hurt. You embarrassed him in front of the whole family. He's only ever tried to help you. Please don't let outsiders fill your head with nonsense about boundaries and abuse. We love you. Come home for dinner this week and make things right. Love, Mom. The word outsiders lingered like a bruise. They meant Maya. They always did. I crumpled the letter and dropped it into the recycling bin. But later, when Ethan was asleep, I found myself smoothing it back out. Some part of me, the daughter who once wanted to earn their approval, still wanted to be understood. Still wanted them to call and say, "We're proud of you." The house was quiet except for the hum of the heater. I was rinsing dishes when a soft knock came at the door. Not the pounding kind from before, just a gentle tap. I froze. Through the peephole I saw Melanie, my younger sister. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged like she'd been crying. I opened the door halfway, chain still latched. "What are you doing here?" "Don't freak out," she said quickly. "I'm alone." "That's not comforting," she sniffed. "They don't know I came. Dad's losing it, Anna. He's talking about lawyers and teaching you a lesson." My chest tightened. "What kind of lesson?" "I don't know," she said. "But he's been calling Jake nonstop, saying you're trying to destroy the family. He even mentioned Ethan." I gripped the edge of the door. "What about Ethan? Just that you're unstable. That he might have to get involved for Ethan's sake." A chill ran through me. "He's threatening to call CPS," I whispered. Melanie looked at the floor. "I think so. He was looking up numbers online. Mom told him to calm down, but, well, you know Mom." "Yeah, I knew Mom." I leaned my head against the doorframe. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're right," she said, voice breaking. "About everything. But you don't know what he's like when he's embarrassed. I don't want him to hurt you." For a moment, I saw the scared teenager she used to be, the one who'd hide behind me when Dad's silence stretched too long. "Thank you for telling me," I said softly. "But you should go before he notices you're gone." She nodded, eyes wet. "Be careful, Anna, please." When she left, I locked the door again, double-checking the latch. Then I sank onto the floor beside it, heart pounding. If he was really planning to weaponize CPS against me, I needed to be ready. The thought of strangers judging my motherhood, of Ethan caught in that crossfire, made my throat ache. I texted Maya. Me. He might call CPS. Maya. Seriously? That's harassment. Me, Melanie warned me. Said he's been talking about it. Maya. Okay, then we prepare. Paper trail, documentation, everything. Me. Already started. I opened a folder on my laptop labeled Evidence, the one I'd started after the first confrontation. I began adding screenshots, texts, emails, the letter from Mom, even a picture of the new locks. If this turned into a fight, I wasn't going to be blindsided again. As I typed, I heard Ethan's voice from his bedroom, sleepy and soft. "Mommy?" I went to his door. "What is it, love?" He rubbed his eyes. "You're still up." "Just finishing some work." "Are Grandma and Grandpa mad?" His words landed heavily. "Why do you ask?" Because they always look mad in pictures now. I smiled weakly. Maybe they just need some time to think. Okay, he said, already fading back into sleep. You can have some of my cookies if you're sad. I closed the door quietly. Thanks, buddy. That helps. Then I returned to my laptop and kept typing. Each click of the keyboard another line between past and present, fear and resolve. By midnight, I had over 50 screenshots saved. A record of every manipulation, every demand, every proof that I was done playing their game. When I finally shut the computer, the house was still. The silence no longer felt like danger. It felt like evidence of survival. The call came on a Thursday afternoon while I was charting vitals at the hospital. Unknown number. Local area code. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in my gut, that cold, familiar twist, told me to answer. Hello. This is Anna Morales, a woman's voice, calm and professional. Good afternoon, Ms. Morales. My name is Jennifer Clark, and I'm a caseworker with Child Protective Services. I'd like to schedule a home visit regarding your son, Ethan. The pen slipped from my fingers. It clattered against the desk loud enough that the nurse beside me looked up. I'm sorry, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. A home visit for what reason? I understand this may come as a surprise, she said. We received a report expressing concern for your child's welfare. My pulse roared in my ears. Concern from who? I'm not authorized to share the reporter's identity, Jennifer said, her tone kind but firm. We handle all reports as confidential. Of course. Of course he'd actually done it. I took a breath. Ethan is fine. He's healthy, happy, and safe. I'd like to resolve this immediately. That's good to hear, she said. These visits are usually straightforward. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Does that work? I forced my voice steady. Yes, that's fine. She gave me her direct number, thanked me for my cooperation, and hung up. I sat there, staring at the blank computer screen. My hands were shaking. My colleague, a nurse named Dana, nudged me gently. Hey, you okay? I nodded automatically. Yeah, just family stuff. If only she knew. That night, I told Maya everything. She showed up 20 minutes later, still in her scrubs, hair pulled into a messy bun, carrying her laptop like a shield. He actually called CPS, she said, pacing my kitchen. That's next-level manipulation, Anna. It's not just toxic, it's dangerous. I know, I said. My voice sounded distant even to me. He's trying to make me look unfit. He knows that's my worst fear. Maya stopped pacing and looked at me squarely. Then we prepare. We spent hours cleaning every visible surface. Dishes washed, toys organized, refrigerator stocked neatly like a commercial. I gathered everything I'd been saving. Ethan's preschool attendance sheets, vaccination records, my pay stubs, photos from his birthday party, proof that my home was exactly what it looked like. Safe, loving, stable. At one point, I found Ethan's crayon drawing pinned to the fridge, a smiling stick figure with spiky hair, holding hands with a taller one. He'd labeled it me plus mommy. I pressed my fingers to the paper. He shouldn't have to live like this, I whispered. Maya came up beside me. He won't. We'll make sure of it. By morning, my house looked spotless. Ethan helped me set out his favorite picture books on the coffee table, oblivious to why I was fussing so much. Are we having visitors? He asked. Yes, I said, kneeling beside him. A nice lady is coming to meet you and see our home. Just be your wonderful self, okay? He nodded solemnly. Should I wear my dinosaur shirt? That's perfect. At exactly 4:03, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Jennifer Clark, mid-30s, brown hair tied back neatly, a tablet in one hand. Her smile was gentle, not pitying. Ms. Morales? Yes, please come in. She stepped inside, glancing around with a practiced eye. You have a lovely home. Thank you. I gestured toward the couch. Would you like some water or coffee? No, thank you. Let's just go over a few questions. Ethan peeked out from his room. Hi. Jennifer smiled warmly. Hello there. You must be Ethan. He nodded shyly. I'm 6. 6. That's a big age. She crouched slightly. Do you like school? He brightened. I'm in kindergarten. I read books now. I bet you're very smart. She looked up at me. Would it be okay if I spoke with him for a few minutes? Of course, I said. I'll be right here. They sat on the couch while I stood nearby, heart hammering. Jennifer asked simple questions. What he liked to eat, what games he played, whether he felt safe at home. Ethan's answers came easily, pure and honest. I like pancakes and cartoons. Mommy lets me help cook sometimes. We have game nights. And she hugs me every morning before work. Jennifer's smile reached her eyes. That sounds nice. After a few more questions, she stood. Thank you, Ethan. You can go play now. He dashed off to his room. I exhaled. Jennifer turned back to me. Ms. Morales, I need to tell you something. The report we received alleged neglect, specifically that your child was being isolated from family and potentially exposed to emotional instability at home. I swallowed hard. Those are lies. I believe you, she said gently. And after what I've seen today, I don't have any concerns about Ethan's welfare. Tears burned behind my eyes. Thank you. I'll file my report as unfounded, she continued. There will be a record of the complaint, but it will note that there's no evidence of neglect or abuse. I'll also document that this appears to be a malicious report. The words malicious report landed like justice. I led her to the door. Thank you for being thorough, really. Just doing my job, she said. Then she hesitated. Off the record, Ms. Morales. If you know who filed this, you may want to consider legal steps. Weaponizing CPS is a serious matter. I do know, I said quietly, and I plan to. After she left, I sat on the couch in the perfect stillness of my clean house. Ethan came out holding his dinosaur book. Did I do okay, Mommy? You did amazing, I said, pulling him into a hug. You were brave. Am I in trouble? No, sweetheart. Not even a little, he smiled. Can we have ice cream? That laugh that escaped me came from someplace raw and tired but real. Yes, we can. Later, after Ethan fell asleep, I called Maya. She said it was unfounded, I told her. Maya whooped. I knew it. That man underestimated you. He didn't underestimate me, I said, staring at the dark window where my reflection looked both stronger and sadder. He underestimated how far I'm willing to go to protect my son. I picked up my phone again and scrolled to a number I hadn't used in months. Gregory Holt. A family law attorney one of my colleagues had recommended long ago. His voice came on the line a few rings later. Greg Holt speaking. Mr. Holt, this is Anna Morales. I need advice on obtaining a restraining order. The next morning, the city looked washed clean. Rain had passed overnight, leaving the streets shining like glass. I drove downtown early, Ethan's car seat empty in the back because Maya had offered to keep him for the day. The law office sat in a converted brownstone wedged between a coffee shop and a tax firm. Inside, the waiting room smelled faintly of lemon polish and quiet money. Framed degrees lined the wall, each one announcing a credential in precise serif letters. I'd called the number last night, my hands trembling slightly as I spoke. But Gregory Holt had been calm, reassuring. Come by tomorrow morning, he'd said. We'll talk options. Bring documentation if you have any. Now, holding the folder labeled Evidence, I felt the weight of every printed email and screenshot. a tangible record of years spent second-guessing myself. A young receptionist smiled. "Ms. Morales, Mr. Holt will see you now." His office was warm, not sterile like I expected. Bookshelves groaned under case law volumes, but a framed drawing of a stick family, clearly made by a child, sat on his desk. It made him look human, approachable. "Anna," he said, rising to shake my hand. "I'm Greg. Sit down, please." His voice was steady, the kind that sounds unshakable even when everything else isn't. I handed him the folder and he flipped through the pages slowly, reading every detail, the text threads, the group messages, the CPS notice, the report from Jennifer Clark stating the allegations were false. When he looked up, his expression was grim but not surprised. "You've done everything right," he said. "What your father did is considered harassment and malicious reporting. Both are serious. But this isn't just about that, is it?" I hesitated. "It's about control. It's been this way my whole life. I just didn't see it clearly until now." He nodded. "I've seen patterns like this before. Family systems built around dominance and obedience. When someone breaks free, they don't forgive it easily." The words hit something deep. "So what can I do? How do I make it stop?" "You start by protecting yourself legally," he said. "A restraining order would bar him from contacting you or coming near your home or workplace. We'll file for a temporary one today. It goes into effect immediately once he's served. Then, in a few weeks, we'll go to court for a hearing to make it permanent." I exhaled. "Will that really keep him away?" "It will give you the law on your side," he said. "And from what I see here, you have solid grounds. You've documented harassment, uninvited visits, threats, and a false CPS claim." "That's more than enough," I nodded slowly. "Do I have to include my mother or siblings?" He leaned back. "That's up to you. They've been complicit, but most of their actions have been emotional manipulation, not direct harassment. We can start with your father. If they continue to contact you or show up, we'll amend it." I stared at the folder in his hands, all my humiliation and anger reduced to neat pages of evidence. "It feels so formal," I said quietly. "Like I'm cutting them off forever." Greg met my eyes. "You're not cutting them off. You're stopping them from hurting you. There's a difference." Something loosened in my chest. "Okay, let's do it." He drafted the paperwork while I sat across the desk, answering each question carefully. Name of respondent: Gary Morales. Relationship to petitioner father: nature of harassment: emotional and verbal intimidation, repeated uninvited contact, threats, false reporting to authorities. Minor child included: Ethan Morales. When we finished, he slid the stack toward me. "Review this before signing. Make sure everything is accurate." I skimmed it, the words swimming. At the bottom of the form was a line that read, "The petitioner believes they and their dependent are at risk of further harm if no legal action is taken." I didn't hesitate. I signed, Greg nodded. "Good. I'll file it this afternoon. The process server should deliver it to your father within 24 hours. You'll get confirmation once it's done." My pulse quickened. "What happens when he gets it?" "He'll be angry," Greg said plainly. "But he'll also be warned. And if he violates it, calls, shows up, sends someone else to contact you, you call the police. Immediately." I looked out the window where rain still dripped from the awning. "He's going to see this as betrayal." Greg folded his hands. "That's because he's always seen your obedience as loyalty. But loyalty without respect is just fear." Back at home, Ethan was drawing on the floor with Maya. When he saw me, he ran over, waving a green crayon. "Mommy, we're making a zoo. Maya says mine's the best." "It's definitely the best," I said, kissing the top of his head. Maya caught my eye. "So, how'd it go?" It's filed, I said. Temporary restraining order. He'll be served soon, she grinned. Finally. Anna, I'm proud of you. I sat down beside her, suddenly drained. It doesn't feel like victory, it feels heavy. It's both, she said. Freedom usually is. That evening, my mother called, from a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened later, her voice trembled between pleading and accusation. Anna, I don't understand what you're doing. Your father just got some legal papers. He's devastated. You're breaking his heart. We're your parents. You can't treat us like strangers. Please, baby, call me back before this goes too far. I deleted it. Then came a text from Jake. Are you insane? Dad's furious. You're ruining the family. And one from Melanie. Mom won't stop crying. You should fix this. I blocked all 3 numbers. The next day, Greg called. It's done, he said. Your father's been served. I waited for the explosion, for pounding on the door, another message, something. But what came was worse. Silence. No calls, no texts. Not even a whisper from extended family. For the first time in my life, my phone was quiet, and it terrified me. Because silence in my father's world was never surrender. It was the sound of planning. That night, after putting Ethan to bed, I walked through the house, checking the locks again. Each click echoed like punctuation. Proof that I was in control of this small, safe world. Still, when I crawled into bed, I couldn't shake the image of my father's face when he read the papers. Shock first, then fury, then that cold, calculating calm. I turned off the lamp and whispered into the dark, he doesn't get to win. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. The quiet didn't last. For 3 days, my phone stayed silent. No calls, no messages, no one at the door. I started to believe maybe, just maybe, the restraining order had done its job. Then the letter arrived. It came in a plain white envelope, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of printer paper, typed neatly. You won't keep my grandson from me forever. I taught you better than to turn on family. If you don't come to your senses, the law won't protect you. No signature, but it didn't need one. I knew that clipped phrasing, that mixture of authority and threat. My father could have typed it in his sleep. My pulse thudded in my ears. The document trembled in my hands. He wasn't even trying to hide it. I took a picture of the letter, folded it into a plastic sleeve, and slipped it into my evidence folder. Then I called Greg Holt. He picked up on the second ring. Anna? I got a letter, I said, my voice shaking. No signature, but it's him. He's taunting me. Keep it. Don't reply. This counts as a violation of the restraining order. Forward the photo to me, and I'll contact the police liaison. I did exactly that. Within an hour, Officer Patricia Keene from the local precinct, the same officer who'd handled the earlier trespass call, rang my phone. Ms. Morales, I reviewed the letter. This is considered indirect contact and harassment, she said. Would you like to file an official violation report? Yes, I said immediately. He needs to know this isn't just words anymore. That afternoon, Ethan and I were in the backyard while the police car idled at the curb. Officer Keene took my statement on the porch while Ethan kicked a soccer ball on the grass. Has he tried to contact you in any other way? She asked. No, just this. Good. Keep documenting everything. Even silence if it stretches too long. Sometimes these cases escalate right after an initial warning. She gave me a sympathetic smile. You're doing the right thing. I'll file this tonight. Thank you, I said, meaning it. Watching the cruiser pull away, I realized how surreal my life had become. Restraining orders, evidence folders, police reports. I used to measure success in nursing shifts and Ethan's bedtime routines. Now it was about who I could keep out. That evening, Maya dropped by with takeout and wine. Any updates? She asked, handing me a carton of noodles. Officer Keen's filing the violation report, I said. It feels strange, reporting my own father to the police. But also, right. Maya leaned against the counter. That's what accountability feels like. Strange, but right. Ethan popped his head into the kitchen. Can I have some noodles? You can have some carrots first, I said. He made a face, then grinned when Maya handed him a fortune cookie. Compromise, she said with a wink. While he ate, I told her about the letter. He's trying to scare me, I said. He wants me to second-guess myself, to think I've gone too far. Maya twirled her noodles thoughtfully. That's what abusers do when they lose control. They test the fence. The fence? Yeah, she said. Like animals in a new pen, they push to see if the boundaries hold. Once they get shocked a few times, they stop trying. I hope she shocks him good, Ethan mumbled around his noodles, and we both laughed. Too loud, too long. The next morning, a voicemail waited on my phone. This is Officer Keen. Your father was contacted regarding the violation report. He denied sending the letter but became verbally aggressive when advised to stop all communication. I've issued a formal warning. Call me if anything else happens. I replayed it twice just to hear her tone. Calm, professional, unmoved. It gave me strength. But by that evening, the silence returned. And this time, it wasn't peaceful. It was charged. Sunday morning, Melanie showed up at my doorstep again, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Don't slam the door, she said before I could speak. I'm not here to start a fight. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. You shouldn't be here. The order covers indirect contact, too. She winced. I know, but I needed to warn you. Dad's furious. He said he's not afraid of your little piece of paper. My stomach nodded. He said that? She nodded, tears glinting. He's talking about filing something against you. Like custody stuff. Says you're keeping Ethan from his grandparents and that he's got evidence of neglect. Evidence? I repeated, my voice hard. He already tried that with CPS. They cleared me. I told him that, she said quickly, but he doesn't care. He says he'll find another way. I exhaled sharply. Why are you telling me this, Melanie? You're risking getting dragged into it. She looked down at her shoes. Because you're my sister. And because I think he's lost it. Just be careful. I wanted to hug her, but I didn't. Touching her felt like touching the past, and the past had teeth. Thank you for telling me, I said. But you need to go, she nodded, wiping her eyes. He's not going to stop, Anna. I know, I said. But I am. That night, after Ethan was asleep, I drafted a message to Greg. He's threatening new legal action. Says he's not afraid of the order. What happens next? His reply came minutes later. If he files anything, we'll respond. But given his pattern, it's more likely he's trying to scare you. Document it, keep calm, and don't engage. If he contacts you again, we'll request a contempt hearing. Contempt hearing. The phrase sounded sterile, but the idea pulsed with meaning. Proof that his control was breaking. I set my phone down and looked around the quiet house. On the coffee table, Ethan's homework sat half-finished. A tiny crayon drawing caught my eye. 2 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. He'd written, "Me plus Mom, Arsh team" in crooked letters. Something in my chest unclenched. We were a team. And this time, the world would see what kind of man my father really was. 2 days later, a knock came while I was making dinner. My heart jumped, too loud, too soon. When I looked through the peephole, a uniformed officer stood there, not my father. I opened the door cautiously. "Officer Keen?" She nodded. "Evening, Ms. Morales. your father was taken into custody this afternoon for violating the restraining order a second time. He'll spend the night in holding. My breath left me in one rush. What happened? He tried to send another message through your sister. Instructed her to deliver a letter. She turned it in instead. I blinked. Melanie did? Yes, Keene said. She mentioned you told her to be careful. She was. That may have saved her from getting pulled in legally. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I'd been bracing for an attack, not an ally. Thank you, I finally said. Both of you, Keene nodded. The system worked this time. But keep documenting. If he violates it again, the penalties will increase. After she left, I stood in the doorway for a long moment, staring into the fading light. The air outside smelled like rain again. Clean, sharp and new. I closed the door, turned the bolt, and whispered to no one. This is what freedom sounds like. The courthouse smelled faintly of old paper and floor polish. Sterile, quiet, unforgiving. I sat beside Greg, hands folded so tightly my knuckles ached. Across the aisle, my father whispered to his attorney, looking smaller than I remembered, but somehow just as dangerous. When the judge entered, everyone stood. Her voice was calm but sharp. We're here to review a restraining order violation. Ms. Morales, your statement, please. Greg rose first, handing over the documentation, the letter, the previous report, Officer Keene's testimony. Your Honor, he said, this is not a misunderstanding. It's a pattern of intimidation. My client has remained compliant. The respondent has not. Then my father took the stand. He looked at me once, eyes cold. I didn't send that letter, he said. My daughter's making this up to punish me for caring. I almost laughed. Caring. Greg handed the judge the photo of the typed note. Identical phrasing to previous texts from Mr. Morales, he said. We verified the printer origin through his office documents. It's his, the judge turned to him. Mr. Morales, the law is not optional. You violated a direct court order. I'm extending the restraining order to a permanent term of 3 years. Dad's mouth fell open. You can't. I can, she said. And I just did. The gavel struck once. The sound echoed like closure. As bailiffs escorted him out, my mother's tearful gaze found me from the gallery, a silent plea I didn't return. I simply gathered my papers, my breath steady. Outside the courthouse, sunlight broke through the clouds. Greg shook my hand. You did it. No, I said, watching the light spill across the steps. I just stopped letting him do it. For the first time in months, my phone stayed silent for the right reasons. No calls, no threats, no guilt disguised as love. Just peace. Ethan and I settled into something that felt like normal. Mornings were pancakes and cartoons. Evenings were homework, laughter, and a house that didn't feel like a battlefield. One afternoon, I picked him up from school. He ran into my arms, waving a drawing, the two of us under a bright yellow sun. It's us, he said proudly. We're happy, I smiled. Yeah, buddy. We really are. At home, I placed the picture on the fridge beside our grocery list. The paper fluttered slightly in the breeze from the open window, light, alive, free. The silence no longer felt like danger. It felt like belonging. A year passed quietly, the kind of quiet that feels earned. The court dates, the calls, the panic, all faded into memory. Ethan turned 7 last month. We had a small party in the park. Blue cupcakes, laughter, sunlight on his face. No empty chairs. No waiting by the window. Just people who showed up because they wanted to. Sometimes, I still catch myself expecting the old tension, the sound of a text, a knock at the door. But it never comes. And slowly, that expectation has turned into something softer. Peace. Maya and I joke that my house is finally drama-free real estate. It's more than that. It's ours. Ethan's drawings still fill the fridge, and every night when I tuck him in, he says, "Good night, team." I whisper it back. "Good night, team." And I realize this is what family is supposed to feel like. Not fear, not duty, just love, steady and quiet.